here we are, one of the big 3 ones I've wanted to do. Hopefully, this is my year to get these other 2 videos made. Also, apologies if the audio is a little bit weirder than normal on this one. A lot of the stuff that I use for acoustics has currently been packed up, but I'm doing what I can in software to, shall we say, mitigate the blow. 1, 2, 1, 2. But yes, this video is basically just on my experiences with the series, which will go into the anime, which, yes, we'll get to one specific one, as well as the video games I grew up with, and a couple of interesting ones that I want to more just briefly mention. And the modern TCG that some people love today. I mean, I do. Let's not stall any further and just jump right into... Okay, so I do apologize for the extra filler footage for a second, but we kinda need to talk about who owns the anime right now. See, to talk about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, we need to talk about 4Kids, and 4Kids is kind of a meme for, well, this. And I will admit, I was not expecting to have to play devil's advocate for this video, but it's not exactly their fault. While I know it's easy to dunk on 4Kids for all their changes, it was more down to TV network demands at the time, given that, you know, they had the final say. Like, you gotta remember, a lot of these aired during the Saturday morning, which Saturday morning cartoons are probably things more millennials and maybe Zoomers remember. Obviously, anything with the property that was already big over here, like DC or Marvel, got, you know, a lot of leeway. But since anime was still niche at the time, yeah, it kind of got hit hard. And it's not like 4Kids have even died off. In fact, they were purchased by Konami. In fact, right now as 4K Productions, they're currently Konami's localization arms, which also means all of the English rights for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime fall right back on Konami. Which is exactly why I'm even bothering to talk about anything anime, even though that's like feeding arsenic pancakes to the algorithm due to copyright claims. Also, I'm not going to be talking about the original series, because I'm probably the most prone into going on a tangent about why Yugi's deck should have lost the entire series. Instead, we're going to be focusing on Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, which, well, it's going to be the English dub. Why the English dub? Well, you all ever hear of Ghost Stories dub? If not, then I apologize for what I'm about to play.
Shirotabi, please forgive me for bringing you back to life. I know now that it could never work between us. As much as we wanted to, it could never be. Not because you're a rabbit, but because you're black.
I would call Yu-Gi-Oh! GX's dub the G-rated version of Ghost Stories. It's absolutely unhinged, but it does follow the plot of the show. But if you want to watch the show more for the plot, then yeah, you do want to use subs because, whew, like, let me just use the obligatory Pot of Greed clip.
I play Pot of Greed. It lets me draw 2 more cards from my deck. Just what I wanted. The one and only Donzalug. And when I say one and only, I really mean it. Because, my children, I am him.
And as much as I would like to go on about how unhinged it gets, as well as the fact that GX is shockingly progressive for Yubel's mere existence. Even if it is directly owned by Konami, I do realize I am playing fire a little bit with the fact that I am using anime clips of any sort in the video. But I am here to tell you that the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is fucking free on YouTube. The entire English dub is fucking free. But before we go into video games, at least let me end with what I consider one of the highlights of the dubs. Allow me to introduce to you the cage fighter Mad Dog.
That's right, Poopy Head! My mommy says I'm really strong! You hear me? I take guys like you and eat them for breakfast! We're not done yet! I play Pot of Greed, which lets me draw 2 cards!
Okay, let's get out of here before the content ID system flays my ass alive. Okay, so this part of the video demanded almost an entire rewrite. While I am showing footage of one of the two games I was going to put here, yeah, we're going to have to talk about formats. So, the two games I was going to cover use a format called GOAT. GOAT is basically the original format when your extra deck was only used for fusion monsters. The format I play nowadays is called Advanced, and yeah, it sure is compared to the old days. And while this unedited footage of the video game is playing, let me remind you that Advanced is a lot faster than this, even in video game form. This was the only thing utilizing the GOAT format that I could play for any length of time. It's just insufferably glacial to me. I also say this after coming back from an event that I had to play a lot of Advanced at, and it just made all this GOAT stuff seem even more glacial. So before we go on to the modern video games, I'm just going to throw out a bunch of the weird alternate format games, because I can, and I like weird things. The first I'm mentioning is a duology. Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories and Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses. Rose's cover here is being used because the game is, unhinged. Both games use an alternative version of GOAT that is a bit faster, mind you. Except Duelist of the Roses is a time-traveling fucking isekai that's actually based on a proper fucking war. There's also a bunch of really weird spin-offs that got video games, like the Capsule Monsters stuff and Dungeon Dice Monsters, but, they're all still a better idea than Rush/Speed Duel, so yeah. They're all spread out over multiple consoles as well, so yeah. Also, you might have noticed that the footage of the GOAT game that I was going to use, Duel Academy, is still playing, which is just the speed of fucking GOAT. But to get into the video games of today... Oh god, it's time for me to talk about fucking Master Duel. Ugh. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, despite being a fucking gacha game, even more so than playing an actual card game, for obvious fucking reasons, admittedly has some good ideas. Unfortunately, it also has enough gameplay changes to where I just kind of despise it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can admit it's fine enough, especially for a gacha game. Like, one of my dorks is one of the ones I've been using to help capture Master Duel footage, so obviously it's got its base. As well as the fact that they got Yasunori Nishiki, the guy who did the Octopath Traveler music, to do the soundtrack for the whole thing is genuinely excellent. However, given the fact that the game is available in regions that both the OCG, the Asian card game, is in, as well as TCG regions, aka the card game we play, the ban list is kinda funky. Let's use examples from both the OCG and the TCG's forbidden list, aka the ban list of the game, as I do think that'll probably be the best way for me to explain this whole thing. The one that any Yu-Gi-Oh! Player will flay me alive for not mentioning is Max C. This little bundle of cockroaches lets you pitch it from hand in order to draw a card every single time an opponent special summons a monster. Given how the advanced format is as a whole, this can quickly spiral out of hand given the fact that, well, you're going to be special summoning a lot of monsters for any archetype, usually. As a result, the TCG has pretty much permanently banned it, but the OCG, as well as Master Duel, have it unlimited. For those that do not know, unlimited means you can run 3 copies in your deck, as any card can run 3 copies as long as there's no ban list restrictions. And, well, the one other example I will use is a card called Kashtira Fenrir, my least favorite card in all of TCG. Kashtira Fenrir does way too much for the price of fucking nothing. If you have no monsters out, you can special summon it, and, well, you get a search off for a Kashtira monster, which you can make another Kashtira Fenrir. That itself isn't bad, but it's everything that comes after that is. Because for the low cost of either going into battle and smacking a monster, or a monster so much as sneezing and activating an effect, you can banish a monster face down, which means if it's got an effect on banish, you're not activating it. It becomes far harder to get back, too. Some people call it a meta deformer, but I kinda call it a crutch, so Japan kind of agreed with me and wound up putting it in the same category as Pot of Greed. Banned. But TCG, for whatever goddamn reason, and it's probably tins, it's probably the fact that the tins that contain the Wolfie Boy are still on shelves, have in their infinite wisdom decided that Kashtira Fenrir, this card that does so fucking much, should be unlimited. Which means the in-between for Master Duel is to limit Kashtira Fenrir to 1, which is probably an okay enough solution. Genuinely, a part of what makes Fenrir so horrible is the fact that the Kashtira special summoning conditions are not in fact once per turn. So this would be my example of Master Duel's ban list being not ideal, but reasonable enough. However, that's not where the strangeness ends with Master Duel, with me being a TCG player and all. The other really weird thing is that Master Duel completely changes some windows of opportunity. In the TCG, and I presume the OCG, I have not played that format, so please correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a quick effect, you can react to phase change. For example, you can use quick effects during draw and standby in reaction to the changing of those phases. Master Duel removes that, likely in an attempt to be fair to slower decks. And while I do get it, it drastically changes the feel to the point where it just feels a little bit alien to me. To give context, I made an archetype called Labyrinth, have done so since 2022. If it's played right, Labyrinth can absolutely thrive in the standby phase of your opponent, but not in Master Duel. And again, this is just my personal preference. Like, if you like Master Duel, more power to you. If you can tolerate the outright gacha, more power to you. But I would be lying if I didn't mention the fact that Master Duel did get me back into Yu-Gi-Oh!, so yeah, it has its place, for sure. But what if you want something more accurate to the TCG and OCG, then what do you exactly go for? Well, let's address that in my section on the TCG. In fact, let's just go to it. Let's stop dawdling here on Master Duel and me ranting like an old fucker ranting at a cloud. And finally, the last part of the video, me talking about the TCG. See, with a lot of Yugi-Boomers, they can be separated into one of two camps. Either one, I hate what the game has become and the fact that it has become so complicated. Or category 2, the type of person that's living up their life because they like the more dynamic play that advanced format provides. For the record, I am biased as hell as I am certainly in category 2. Like, way back during when Albus Strike released, aka when I truly got back into TCG, it was a bit weird at first, but I got used to it pretty fast. However, attending YCS regionals has, kind of made me realize just how sloppily Konami handles this. To go with the story from YCS regionals, basically, it was a shit show. It was a complete and utter shit show. Like, the poor people running the event were just begging Konami, and a lot of people left before Konami relented. We basically had to do split rounds, which eschewed things like a lunch break and so forth, with us just having to eat in between rounds given they now took so long. They were also afraid that they were going to run out of packs to give people because, see, whenever you enter an official tournament, locals or otherwise, you usually get a pack for your entry. But because they were so set up for specific numbers, they were genuinely terrified they'd run out of all packs. And like, I meant this video to be positive because I enjoy playing this card game, but like, holy shit, how bad YCS went was just amazing in the worst ways, and I still enjoyed the event. I mean, heck, I got one of the meme wins of the regionals by proccing 2 Waking the Dragons, letting me summon out 2 extra deck monsters for absolutely nothing. Like, YCS got me to evaluate just how much Konami does wrong with the TCG compared to OCG. The OCG's rarity system is just so much better. Just so much. Every single rarity card is printed at every single rarity, and it just makes things a lot more accessible as a result. Whereas with TCG, me owning one the Prayers of the Voiceless Voice, it's an $80 card. At the time of recording this, it's $80. Jesus fucking Christ. By all the gods, any god you believe in. Woo! But as to not end this video on a negative note, let's end by talking about a certain something. Let's loop back around to what I said in the games chapter. The modern freeware Yu-Gi-Oh! Sims are really, really good. I do personally prefer Yu-Gi-Oh! Omega over EDO because there's just more polish there. But either work because I have found that using mixed card pools, you can basically workshop anything before it comes out in TCG. I cannot understate how useful that is. It's also the thing that I use most often to play against my dorks with. And additionally, because I've used so much footage from her, a big thanks to my fish for letting me use that footage in which I curb stomped her in game. Yeah. Again, at the least with this, you don't have to suffer the gacha, be it the cardboard gacha or just the gacha. So when it comes to online matters, yeah, this is my ideal way to experience Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially since you get the TCG timings and everything. But regardless, I thank you all for sitting it out with me and listening to me ramble. Now that I'm at the end of this, with 3 goddamn rewrites into the script, I'm just hoping this thing is coherent, but you know what? Fuck it, we ballin'. This is one of those videos that I don't really expect to do well, but I more made it because I like this topic, even with its faults and my hesitance in certain aspects to cover specific things. So to reiterate, if you suffered through this entire video, made it to this point, I do genuinely, sincerely thank you. And I guess I'll see you all in the next one.